Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb count. Let's get started. Okay, let's start with the basic definition of the verb count. The basic definition is to use a number or a unit to find the total amount of something. Examples: please count the number of people. We're counting sheep. Now let's look at the conjugations for this verb. Present, count, counts. Past, counted. Past participle, counted. Progressive, counting. Now let's move on to some additional meanings for this verb. The first additional meaning is to include in a total. Some examples. 50 party guests. Does that count children? 10 people, not counting me, are driving to the lake. So both of these example sentences show us how to use the verb count in the sense of including something in a total. So we're not saying 1, 2, 3. Instead, we're talking about a total number of something, and count is used to mean included inside that total. So in the first example sentence, the question is asked, does that count children? Does that count children? In other words, does that include children? Are children included in that total number? In the second example sentence, it's used in a negative. So 10 people, not counting me, are driving to the lake, meaning 10 people, not including me, are driving to the lake. So this use of count means include. The second additional meaning is to consider or to think of. Let's look at some examples. I count that company among my most valued clients. We don't count him as part of the group. So these uses of count don't really refer to numbers. They don't refer to totals of anything. Actually, this use of count means like to consider something as, or to think of something or someone as something else. So in the first example sentence, it's about a company. So I count that company among my most valued clients. That means I consider that company one of my most valued clients. I think of that company in that way. So this use of count is often used, like we see in this sentence, along with among. Like I count him among my close friends, or I count that person among my worst enemies, for example, something like that. So it's kind of part of a group. You're counting or you're considering that thing or that person as part of a larger group. In the second example sentence, however, it's a negative. We don't count him as part of the group. In other words, we don't consider him or we don't think of him as part of the group. So again, we see kind of a group situation. However, in this negative case, it's that we don't consider that person. We don't count that person as part of this group. So this use means to consider or to think of someone as something, usually like as a larger part of something else. Let's move on to the third additional meaning, which is to have value, to have value. Let's look at some examples. A friend's opinion counts more than the opinion of a stranger. The things I say don't count for much. So we have count here used to mean value, or it has some kind of worth. In the first example sentence, a friend's opinion counts for more than the opinion of a stranger. So in other words, a friend's opinion is more valuable than the opinion of a stranger. In the second example sentence, however, it's a negative. So the things I say don't count for much, means the things I say don't have much value, or the things I say aren't worth much. So count is used in these cases to refer to having value or not having value, as in the second example sentence. So let's take a look at some variations for this verb. The first variation is to count down to. To count down to means to count in decreasing numbers, to use decreasing numbers, usually before some kind of deadline or some kind of event. Let's take a look at some examples. Lots of people count down to midnight on New Year's Eve. The crowd counted down to the conclusion of the soccer game. So in both of these example sentences, we see some kind of special event or something kind of like a deadline. In the first example sentence, it's New Year's Eve. So counting down to midnight usually means counting down like the last 10 seconds of the previous year until we get to 0, or usually with New Year's Eve at 0, we say Happy New Year. We get to like 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. So counting in that decreasing order, counting down to a deadline or counting down to like a buzzer or the end of a game, we use the expression count down for that. So in the second example sentence, with soccer, the crowd counts down the last seconds of the game. So the crowd is excited to see their team win, perhaps, so they might count down the final seconds of the game, usually from like 10 until 0. So countdowns typically aren't very long. If you start counting down like way before an event happens, it's really irritating. But typically when you count down to something, it's just the last 10 seconds or so. The next expression is to count on someone. To count on someone means to depend on someone or to rely on someone. Let's look at some examples. We're counting on you to meet us at the airport. Can I count on you to finish the assignment on time? So in these example sentences, we see to count on someone means to rely on someone. So we can actually replace count on with rely on here or depend on here. In the first example sentence, we're counting on you to meet us at the airport. We're relying on you. We're depending on you. So if you don't do this thing, we will be in trouble is the idea here. In the second example sentence, it's a question. Can I count on you to have the assignment finished? So that means, can I rely on you? Can I trust you? Can I depend on you to have this complete? But we use count there. So this doesn't mean like, can I count on you, like using numbers? No, it means to rely or to depend. So please be careful. Very, very different meanings of count for sure. So please pay attention to the context with this verb. This is a very important verb for context, I think. All right, but I hope that you found some new ways of using the verb count. If you know a different way, or if you want to try to make a sentence with this verb, or just have some questions or comments, please feel free to let us know in the comment section of this video. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other English study tools. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.